How's it going, buddy? Welcome to the show. Ben joined with Michael as usual. It's been a while since we've done one of these. 3 weeks since our last upload, I think. Mostly that's my fault. I've been busy with other things. But as promised, Michael had two picks following my mega pick of Genesis. We did Queens of the Stone Age. His second pick was Gorillaz, a band that I was not too familiar with. Do you count yourself a fan of them?
I've always said I like the Gorillas, or not the Gorillas. They're just Gorillas. I like them. I'm not like a diehard fan, but I always found their music interesting, especially their first. I knew their first part of this discography really well, but the later half, I haven't really listened to a ton. So this is a good way to get into what they've been up to the last several years because they've been pouring on records pretty consistently,
Yeah.
since about 2015 or so.
I was not familiar at all. I feel like I heard maybe two of the seven upon release or shortly thereafter years ago, and that's it. So I was flying almost blind into this, which was interesting because I feel like I've got some pretty strong opinions about this discography. Not necessarily controversial, I don't think, but strong. So, who do you want to start?
I'll let you start. Also, let me just start by saying, consists of comic book creator Jamie Hewlett, who made Tank Girl, and obviously Damon Albarn from Blur, who I'm a huge fan of. I love Blur, and we'll probably do a Blur discography at some point down the road.
Sure.
But yeah, no, this is Gorillaz is kind of like his side project, which has morphed into his main sort of project over the years. So yeah, I'll let you start it off. What do you got?
All right, my number seven is The Fall from 2010. There was two records right back to back there, within like 8 months of each other, which is unusual. Yeah, this one, boy, was just in a word, it's underwhelming, it's boring, it's slow. The production feels noticeably thin to me. I don't know what happened, or if it was just like if it was always meant to be a demo of stuff that he was making on the road, or what the deal was. But when you release it in the studio album format as like an official studio album, that's how I got to treat it. And doing that, the production is pretty weak on this one comparatively. I mean, the production is the worst, next only to the debut, I think, on The Fall. Not a ton of very memorable songs here. There's a couple good ones. Revolving Door and Bobby and Phoenix were highlights for me. The latter of which you can't really attribute to Gorillaz because it's just Bobby Womack, whose voice I love. Just kind of.
I did quite like Bobby Womack. Every time
Yeah.
he appears on one of these records, like I got excited because his voice is great. But
Yeah, he's a great singer. But this to me, and I take all this with a grain of salt. I'm no expert on Gorillaz, but this seems very much to me like a guy who had a couple great records in a row and then like felt like he could do no wrong. Well, it turns out you can with this one. I think it's pretty safe to skip this one. Really underwhelming and a bit boring to me.
So my number seven is also The Fall. This feels like a B-side record, much like you said. It had a really odd, release. It was only like, to the fan club or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There's almost no features, which is unheard of for a Gorillaz record.
Yeah.
It's mostly just 2D. It's the closest I feel like they've ever gotten to a Blur record, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it's just not Gorillaz. It's just there's nothing about this to write home about. It's the forgotten record for a reason in my mind. I like the Bobby Womack parts. I mean, I like the songs in general, but they all follow a very similar, structure of start off slow, then break out into synth at the very end, and then it's just that all the way through. So it was a pretty relatively easy number seven. I say this and my number six were pretty consistently at the bottom for me. I didn't care for either of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, The Fall is definitely at the bottom for me.
It just is ultimate and unnecessary. Like, why did that even happen?
It's weird. It doesn't fit with the rest
It
of it.
It really doesn't. Oh, by the way, can't believe I forgot to mention my favorite song of all time now is "Yodeling in Seattle."
I hated that.
The final thing on this record.
I was sitting there laying down, my eyes closed, listening to this record, just chilling out, and then that comes in, and I'm like, well, my day's ruined.
Yeah,
I hated that.
Pretty stupid.
God, I forgot all about that.
So my number six, this is the one where I think I may put a few noses out of joint. My number six is the debut, Gorillaz from 2001. Okay. Not really a big fan of this one, and whenever I imagine somebody giving a spirited defense of this project, they always talk about how innovative it was, how forward-thinking, how ahead of the curve, and all the electronic elements and some of the production. And I'm like, well, that says maybe, but that's not really how I look. I'm not talking about how much I think it influenced other things. I'm talking about how good I think the record is. The Wright brothers plane, the first one they built, is probably the most important plane of all time. But would you fly on it?
Fuck no.
No, I'm gonna stick to the 747. Right? Innovation versus quality. It's two different conversations
Right.
in my mind. So with that little mini rant out of the way, this one's it's the first half of it really to me is just like MySpace releases from 2002, 2003. Pretty thin production. You know, admittedly, it's early on in the electronica thing, right? Daft Punk had just broke only like a few years earlier. This was a new sound then, but it's not great. Even in terms of their contemporaries in this genre at this time, I don't think it was fantastic. I believe it's Del the Funky Homo Sapien who appears twice on this. Some highlights, pretty good features there, pretty fun.
Dell does a good job. I
Yeah.
quite like when Dell comes on, especially in Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and I think like probably Soundcheck parentheses Gravity is probably the closest this comes to a really defining moment to me. Tomorrow Come Today or Tomorrow Comes Today, I forget which, is like really close to being a great song, I think, but then just kind of stops its development midway through and sort of ends with a fizzle rather than a bang. Although I will say at the very end, the M1A1, if the last half of that song had been indicative of the whole record, I would have liked it a lot more because that thing goes hard there at the end.
Right.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, not much more to say about this one. I don't hate it, but I can't really picture myself ever wanting to sit down and visit this record again personally.
Okay, my number 6 is I really debated with putting this thing at number 7 is Humans from 2017. This is the first Gorillaz record I definitively remember coming out and the hype train being there. They released their first 4 singles all in one day. One of which is Saturn's Bars, which I would say is easily a top 5, maybe a top 3 Gorillaz song for me. I really love that song. But the problem with the rest of the album is it feels overproduced. It feels bloated. Even though it's 50 minutes, it's got 20 tracks in it. It feels like there are too many features. There's not enough 2D's voice going on with it. There's just so many problems I have with Humans. I want to like it. Like, I really want to like this record. I just find myself going, I feel like it was a lot of substance and there was no substance in all style. I felt like there wasn't anything much to it outside of what the surface level bullshit was. So that's why, unfortunately, I have to put Humans at number 6.
I couldn't agree more. It's my number 5. Easily, I could be convinced to swap the debut and Gorillaz. In fact, looking back, I may do that. But as it is, I'll just keep it on my list as it was when I heard these. Humans is totally underwhelming. It's bloated, as you said, even at 50 minutes. It's got 20 tracks, and like 6 or 7 of them are like just 10 seconds of nonsense interludes. I'm like, that's too many interludes, man. It's like every third song you get this goofy non-idea just thrown in the track list. Feels like to pad it out. Yeah, too many features, too little. Like a feature is supposed to be a feature, not the main focus. It is the focus on this album. It almost reminds me in a bad way of like a DJ Khaled record. It's like it has nothing to do with DJ Khaled. It's all other more talented people doing shit, and he just like it's like a compilation record of other people. The
problem is Damon Albarn is perfectly talented to hold himself up.
I wish he had done more on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like they were sort of coasting. There wasn't like something that he was like, I guess I need to put out a Gorillaz record.
It felt like a lifetime achievement. It's like, I'm going to collaborate with everybody I've ever wanted to collaborate with, or everybody that's a little bit relevant right now. He's got fucking Dram on there, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Production's fine, but the song ideas they're just not there. The features ride on tunes that don't have other ideas in them, so it's just the features, and they're not enough on their own.
All right, my number 5 is the Now Now, which I believe came out in 2018 or 19. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I like this record. I like pretty much from here up. I like the In Hollywood, the Snoop Dogg feature. I think it's really cool. It's not quite as good as the one on Plastic Beach, but that's completely fine.
Welcome to the Plastic Beach.
It's great. Magic City is a really relaxed song about floating above Miami and questioning humanity. That's really cool. Sorcerers, however you say it, is a really great lo-fi funk track for the band. It's really simple, but the message is like introspective. Fireflies is a really good bass-heavy track about like Lovesick 2D. This is a very 2D-centric record. It's kind of like if The Fall was actually good, it would have been this. And I like the fact that it's 2D. I wish there would be more features. It's been a while, it feels like, since they've gotten the right mix of features and 2D voice. Like, this seems way more 2D, and Human seems way more features. They need to weave it together better, I feel like. But I still like the Now Now. It's still a pretty damn solid record.
Okay. My number four is Song Machine. Oh, God, I hate this fucking album title. If you have more than one type of punctuation in your album title, you're jerking yourself off a little bit.
Yes.
Song Machine, comma, season one, colon, strange times. Yeah, is the name of this record. Trim that fucking shit down. I hate that. Anyway, this is, I don't really know much about this project. I assume there's like another thing going on with the visuals and stuff, that this is season one of something that I'm not
Right.
really aware of. But as a standalone record, not bad. But I was a little surprised to hear about the hugely positive reception this album got. It's definitely better than Humans, no doubt, but not as good, clearly, to me, as the ones that I've ranked above it. Feature heavy. I mean, there's some powerhouses in here, dude. Earth Gang, Slow Tie, JPEG Mafia, Elton John, Schoolboy Q, St. Vincent. I'm like, dude, that's like,
I love like so many of the people. And
I
when
know.
I get into that record, I'll talk about my love of a lot of the people you just named.
I do. I mean, that's a powerhouse. That's
It
like,
is.
you take Elton John out, even though he's a legend, but it's like, that's like the top 40, all those guys
Oh, yeah.
at the point that this came out in 2020, I believe, right?
hmm
Yeah, for all the talent, though, I feel like it's about a 50-50 split, whether or not I think these tracks are good or just kind of, sort of passable. Production is great, as always. We're ahead of the game. Post debut, the production is always a cut above most
Right.
of their contemporaries. Valley of the Pagans was cool. Pac-Man, Ares, I think is how you probably say that. I assume it's named after the god.
Right.
But those were highlights for me, especially Ares. I thought was really, really cool. But for such a talented track list, I would have expected something perhaps just a bit more ambitious. This is it's like B minus Gorillaz. To me, it's just pretty good. It's not great.
Okay, my number four is the debut. Obviously, we have to dive into the fact that the clear, iconic song is Clint Eastwood featuring Delta Funky Homo Sapien, which is, God, that song is just so cool. It is.
Whatever happened to him, by the way?
I don't know.
Is he still doing shit?
I think so.
I know the name, but I don't. Haven't heard it in a long time.
It's just like a song about the id and the ego and being like fucked up on drugs. The whole song is great. The music video is great with the gorillas and like the actual gorillas that were dancing and shit.
Oh yeah.
It's great. Man, Research Clapper is a chore to get through. I hate it. The yeah 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 part really makes me mad. I'll never listen to that song again. Punk is really cool. It's just like it's a punk song,
Yeah, that's a good
obviously.
one.
But it's like it's clearly they're trying to find what their sound is. They do a bunch of different genres in this. They do a lot of hip hop, a lot of electronic, punk in this sense.
Isn't there that Spanish thing towards the end too that they did?
Yeah. They did Slow Country. I really like that one. It's like a dystopian island song is what I wrote down on here. It's like mildly depressing, about leaving your hometown and like seclusion and shit like that. As you mentioned, M1A1. I said it reminds me of like a Pink Floyd song with like the Day of the Dead shouting before. It's definitely the heaviest rock track they have on this record.
I loved that one.
I quite like the debut. I know you stick your nose up at it a little bit, but I think it's a solid record, and it's definitely the foundation for what they'd end up becoming over the next couple of years.
They definitely found the origins of a sound that would go on to make some classics, but I don't think they'd found it at that point. Yeah, and it outstays its welcome at an hour.
I will say it is long. It is
Yeah,
a very long record.
Need to trim probably about 4 of those cuts, and I would have probably bumped it up a couple spots. But anyway, 3 for me is Now, or The Now from 2018, 17. More recent one, I forget. There was a flurry of them there for like a couple years. Following on Humans, this is a lot better, no doubt. This is a big step up in a relatively short amount of time, if memory serves. They're only a year or two apart, right?
Right.
Yeah, you said it best, man. This is like, if they went too far feature heavy on Humans, this one maybe veers a little too far the other direction and sounds like a singer-songwriter album when that isn't really what it should be or what he does best in the context of this project. Yeah, I'd say good, not great. I mean, this one, I'll go ahead and say we've got a couple more to go, and I think Gorillaz have some classic records that I really, really like, but like for me, 3 and below, I don't really know that I'd revisit them, to be honest. Yeah, I wasn't really blown away by anything on the bottom sort of 60% of my list.
I don't feel like a lot of it is special, but I'd say 5 and up are to me are good.
Yeah, Hollywood you said was a highlight. Yeah, Snoop can make any song that little bit better. Trans was another one that I remember. Off the top of my head, I can't remember another one that really jumped out at me in this track list. Maybe I wrote it down. Nope. Okay. Yeah, pleasant listen, shorter. which is kind of unusual. This one was only like 40 minutes, which
Yeah.
that might be their shortest record. But yeah, that's my number three.
I mean, okay. So my number three, I was pretty hell bent on making the first three records my top three for the longest time, and then I got to Song Machine Season One, Strange Times.
Dies.
I hate that. It's terrible. So obviously the opening track with Robert Smith was like a cool gothic opener. Valley of the Pagans with Beck is, equally upbeat, but it's more Beck centric. So you have like the guy from The Cure making a Cure song, you have Beck making a Beck song.
Yeah.
I find that The Lost Chord with Lee John is probably the first really good track that I like. It's super slow and it's really soulful, a lot like the Bobby Womack songs were. It sounds like something that would come out of Plastic Beach. I really dug it. Pac-Man is super cool. I'm a huge Schoolboy Q fan. I love Schoolboy Q. I mean, they have Pac-Man sounds in the background. They have lyrics referencing Pac-Man, but it doesn't overstay its welcome with the metaphor, which I can appreciate. I mean, it's just about like, going through like kind of aimlessly and trying to like go down and find your way and shit. It's Schoolboy Q kills it on his verse. Pink Phantom is a really good song about, a failed relationship featuring Elton John and Black. And I like the Elton John's kind of old school approach and the natural piano sounds, and then the Black's auto-tuned and synth sounds adding to it. Them coming together, it actually works when, in a lot of ways, I think in lesser hands, it would definitely not. Dissolé is a really interesting track. It's in the native Malayan language. What is it? I wrote it down here. Bambara. Pretty much the majority of it is from the woman who's featured in it. I'm not going to even try to pronounce her name, but she is excellent. She has a great voice. I really, and it's like a lot of the lyrics are in French. It's a really interesting track. It's kind of, slow, and the arrangement is a little bit relaxed at the beginning, and it gets really orchestral at the end, and it really, really, it's just, I don't know, it's a very good track. And then you end with Momentary Bliss, which is kind of avant-garde and punk at times, with Slaves, who's a punk rock duo. And then Slow Tie is somebody I had heard of at this point, but I had never gotten into Slow Tie.
He's new.
I have to now get into Slow Tie. He murders his verse. He's amazing. It reminds me of something that would come off of Blur's Park Life record quite a bit.
Yeah. No, Slow Tie is great, dude. He's brand new too. His debut was in 2019 or 2020. Nothing Great About Britain. It's a fantastic record, man. He's charismatic as fuck behind the mic.
Yeah,
he's really good.
I got to look into him. He's interesting.
He's got a great sense of humor too. The kind where it never comes across as goofy even when it's funny.
Right.
It's always like serious. If that makes sense.
Momentary Bliss probably, like, I was thinking about putting it at 3, and Momentary Bliss kind of put it over the edge for me. I decided then, I was like, this is the number 3 record for them.
So I feel like we were always going to have the same top 2, right? I mean,
yeah, it's just a matter of what order you want to put it in. I mean, I know what my order was going to be regardless, but I was pretty sure I knew what the top.
I did not. So the top 2 are the only 2 records that I knew by this band going in, 2 that I remember hearing and liking, but not to the point where I put them on the regular rotation at any point. So going back and listening to them now, I had a hell of a time choosing which I thought was better. Ultimately, I gave the number 2 spot, the runner-up spot, to Plastic Beach. Fantastic record though it is. I thought that Demon Days was stronger. So this one, I think, actually starts a little weak for me with the orchestral thing into the Snoop Dogg feature. I think that might be the low point of the record for me, the first few. Really? I thought that was pretty, like, yeah, okay. I mean, okay, it's not bad, whatever. But then after that, the record really picks up. White Flag is great. Rhinestone Eyes is great. That Bobby Womack feature, I think the song is Stylo.
Yeah.
He's fantastic in anything. What a voice. What a charismatic voice.
He's my favorite of all their features, except for maybe Del and De La Soul.
Yeah, I mean, Del, close second on Del the Funky Homo Sapien. He's the one thing I liked about that first record. But Empire Ants is a pretty cool song. The one thing I'll say about Empire Ants was like, why is it so loud? Did you notice that? Why is it mastered so much louder than everything else?
It felt that way. I totally agree with that.
That was weird, man. I felt like just like an accidental oversight, or maybe it's just a version of it I was listening to. But that stood out to me as a glaring production issue in a band that otherwise always had fantastic production. What else? Superfast Jellyfish is a weird one. I'm not honestly sure. I can't make up my mind whether I like it or not.
I didn't like Superfast Jellyfish. I was like,
it's a weird one in that mix, and it doesn't really fit in the spot in the lineup where they have it. On Melancholy Hill is a pretty song. What else? Sweepstakes, kind of a waste of time.
Oh, I skipped over Sweepstakes.
Yeah,
I heard it and I was like, I know what this song is. I'm done.
You can trim that out.
I was
So
like,
this one was very much a hill for me, meaning like it starts a little weak, gets super strong for the bulk of the project, and
Right.
then ends. It fizzles at the end as well.
Right.
Yeah, like with most Gorillaz projects, in my opinion, you take a little scissors to it, trim it a little bit, and it could be a fantastic record. I mean, it is a great record, but it could be legendary if you just cut out some of the shit that nobody wants to hear. So, and ultimately, I gave that as the number 2 spot.
All right. I agree. My number 2 is also Plastic Beach. I do like Welcome into the World of the Plastic Beach. I think that's actually a really cool setup for the entire song. I dig it. It reminds me of, I don't know why this is going to make me really sad when I say this. You know that movie Shark Tale?
Yes.
Like, it reminds me of something that would be in that for some reason. I don't
does.
know why, but I get that vibe from it.
Shark Tale.
Rhinestone Eyes is super cool, dystopian trash pollution type song. It's got, I think it's the first one on the album to actually feature 2D prominently.
Yeah.
Stylo, like we said, Bobby Womack has also got Yasin Bey, aka Most Definite, who's
of course,
an excellent rapper. Empire Ants, super dreamy, but like you said, it's loud as fuck, but it's a great record.
That's weird to me that they would let that slide through.
Yeah. The on Melancholy Hill, I would say is probably the standout track in my mind. I like the little, the dun dun dun.
Very pretty.
Dun, dun, dun. It's relaxing. It's such a relaxing track. Binge is, kind of a surf rock track. I really dug. It's about drug problems and relationship problems. A lot of the 2D staples, which I've found when I listen to all these records. 2D, drugs and chicks are his main problems.
That's rock music, man.
It is. And maybe that's why I didn't have any eyes. Fucking 2D. I still love 2D. He's great. He's my favorite member of the Gorillaz. And then Broken is feels like this whole thing is a deep political message. It feels like, but Broken feels like one that's way more on the nose. And it feels a lot like a Blur song, and I really like that. It's fine with me. Like, as long as you don't go too much back into the Blur mindset,
right.
It's fine to have little pieces of Blur around every now and again.
They're a great band.
Oh yeah, of course. So I would say Plastic Beach is number 2. A lot of people had this obviously in Demon Days, going back and forth pretty odd on consistently, but I love Demon Days, and I'll let you go ahead and go to your number 1.
Well, we'll go ahead and so it's obviously process of elimination again. I feel bad. This is the second one in a row where you and I have agreed on the top spot. We need more friction, We need to.
Yeah, we rarely do this, and then back to back we did it.
Yeah, great record, man. I mean, a classic. This is the one of theirs where I'm like, my bar when I'm listening through a band's discography. Usually I'll try and listen to the whole discography at least twice. Sometimes I won't. Like if it's a bad record, I'm like, I'm not going to say anything new in that. So this one, the second time, I'm like, you know what? I need to pick this one up on vinyl. And that's the ultimate bar for me, is whether I really, really like a record. Is like, yeah, I think I need this one in my own collection. I'm so glad I revisited this discography, if for nothing else, to remember how much I liked this record, because I'd forgotten about it. Production best, most engaging songwriting, most consistent track list. I mean, I could just shower compliments on this thing. There's a performative energy here that is lacking in a lot of the earlier stuff. Like for me, the debut, its biggest problem is it doesn't feel human enough, for lack of a better term. It's too stiff, it's too gridded, it's too electronic. But this one, even though there's a lot of electronic elements here, as there always are in their music, this one feels performative, it feels energetic, it feels collaborative.
It does.
It feels like a band, which a lot of their stuff didn't for me, and that's another mark against it in my book, but this definitely does, as does Plastic Beach. Man, MF Doom, the Far Side guys, great features on this. Not really a bad feature on it.
Got De La Soul on Feel Good Inc.
Yeah, I mean, of course, probably their most well-known song.
Oh yeah,
it's a great song.
Yeah, I love that song. I love the contrast of the whole thing of the evil sounding of De La Soul, and then when 2D just sings Windmill Windmill. I love that.
Weak point for me, Dare. I thought that was pretty weak.
I like Dare. I've always liked Dare. I've always thought it was a good song. I like Sean Ryder. I think his voice is it's super British. I'm a fan. I've always liked Dare. For me, the weak point is the fire coming out of the monkey's head with the happy people.
That's
the only song I definitively do not like. November Has Come. I've really loved it. It's got obviously MF Doom, which is great. I all the time I'm singing Kids with Guns. I'll just be walking around with Kids with Guns.
Yeah.
I'll just walk around and start
I forgot to
singing
mention
randomly.
that one.
I love
so many
Kids
good
with
ones.
Guns.
Every Planet We Reach is Dead.
Every Planet We Reach is Dead is super cool. The rep is way catchy. And then you got Clint Eastwood or Dirty Harry, which is a continuation of socioeconomic disparities and shit like that. Booty Brown, the rapper, coming out of it. No, Demon Days is a great record, and we talked a lot about how they don't do enough features, they do too many features. In my mind, Demon Days is the correct amount of features and the correct amount of 2D and Gorillaz.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like if they did it about this much, it's a perfect 50-50 split in my mind.
Yeah.
It's the most well-balanced record in a lot of aspects, including that one. I think it was an easy number one. I love Demon Days. It's one of my favorite records ever, easily of the 2000s. Yeah, no, it was a very easy number one for me.
Yeah, it was always going to be this one going in. The Gorillaz, if I'm going to just boil it down, brutally honest, I feel like they've got 2 essential records, and the rest, I'm not really sold on the rest, man.
See, I'd say 2 essential, 2 all-timers, 3 good ones, and 2 shitty ones.
Really? 3 good ones? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the Now Now and their debut and Song Machine season 1.
Blah 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 blah.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah,
dude, limit
Song Machine
yourself.
season 1 are all pretty quality records. But I'm not gonna sit there and go, oh, they're all timers. They're good. They're all very good. But yeah, you're right. The top 2 are all timers.
And notable for their influence and their creativity. They really don't. There's not many bands that are like Gorillaz in terms of sound or style, let alone the whole fictional band thing, cartoon thing.
I mean, they have like a universe like going on. Like,
yeah,
it's insane. They actually they actually have people like Murdoch and Russell Hobbs and Noodle and 2D. Like they are the band. Like Dave and Albarn's doing the voice, but like I reference it as 2D because that's who's fucking singing the damn songs. That's who's writing the damn songs, just 2D.
And maybe I'm missing something in the fact that I haven't dove into that side of it at all. I'm not really aware of their universe, but apparently it's pretty expansive and it has a lot of fans that pay attention. So respect for the creative enterprise. I mean, they built something really unique with Gorillaz. But I'll stick with Blur if I have to pick a Damon Albarn project. Yeah,
That's
just
fair.
to be fair. So
I would say it's more my speed too, but I like both, but I lean Blur as well.
This was a very interesting one. This has the somewhat dubious distinction of probably, if I'm being honest, being the least favorite discography I've done so far.
That's fair.
Not because it's bad, but it's just
we've done a lot of really good ones.
We tend to choose great stuff because that's what we like listening to. And
yeah, I wanted something a little avant-garde, something a little out there. You know, I wanted to switch things up a little completely on something I knew a little bit about, but not a ton.
Oh, you know what? I take that back because Ryan and I ranked the studio albums of 1975.
Oh.
And I'd probably put them below.
That's fair.
Honestly, John Mayer's neck and neck. I do like a couple of John Mayer records quite a bit, even though they're not on the same level as far as like artistic ambition or whatever.
Right.
But whatever, we're rambling.
All right, so I'll let let's tease the one we're going to, and also I want your pick. So we're gonna tease at some point soon. We're going to do Lana Del Rey, considering she was supposed to have a record come out on July 4th this year and pushed it back. We will do that eventually. I am low-key a massive Lana Del Rey fan. I own everything she owns in my car. You go ahead. What will be your pick though?
Well, yeah, so we'll do Lana next, just because it's 2021 as we're filming this, obviously, and she's apparently got a record in the works right around the corner, and that's a good one to do too. I enjoy her work as well. It would definitely be it would expand our sort of like catalog of stuff we've covered quite a bit, which would be nice. Honestly, I hadn't put a lot of thought. I should have prepped beforehand as to what I want to do for the next one. I might cut this real quick and then think for a minute. 1 to 2, yeah.
All right, we have an idea. We have a consensus. We have an opinion. Go ahead, Ben.
That took a minute. I don't feel like we've covered a good old nostalgic pop punk band. We're the same age. Everybody our age grew up listening to Green Day, Blink-182, Sum 41, Yellow Card. There's SR-71. There's a million of them, right? We're gonna do Blink-182 because I think that's a good one. It's an easy one. They don't have a terrible one. We were talking about doing Green Day, but God, I don't want to listen to Uno Dos Tres.
Everything in my mind post 21st Century Breakdown, I'm like, no, I'm good.
So stay tuned for that. We're going to do Lana next, but in the works, Blink-182. So that'll do it. Thanks for watching.